Sounds like this.
Yes, hang on, we had you
Sorry.
by your footprint. All right, good afternoon all. I'd like to call to order the first public hearing of April 8th, 2026. And this is to receive public comment on the public health benefit. Maybe I got the wrong item. Pretty tough.
Two people will step in and help you immediately.
Sir.
All right. Discussion of capital improvement planning, including a recap of March special town hall meeting and.
Indeed, I'm gonna do so after I join the Zoom call. Lisa's dialing. Cool, seconds for that. Fence is killing me, Chris.
No, I'm sorry.
I don't handle tension well.
Right. It's the best.
Doesn't mean do it, do it well.
I think we should just.
Well, I guess this is the best I'm gonna do. So. Okay. Thanks for your patience with me as I got some agenda items out of here. Things have been moving pretty fast, I think, on our facilities planning topic. Especially in the wake of our special meeting, the date of our last council meeting on March 11th. I wanted to take a few minutes and talk with you about some recent events in our facilities planning progress. Key topics to include the way we're thinking about the design process as of today. Just a short recap on that town hall meeting. And then the two main points of discussion for today are this notion of a citizens committee to advise the council on capital improvement planning and funding. And then a discussion of some high level information about the possible property tax impacts of a general obligation bond here at the town of Alta. I want to talk a little bit about kind of getting a municipal advisor, which we can do later in the discussion. So in the design process, the town council is relatively well informed on town council is well informed on kind of maturity of our thinking about what the building is going to be. To summarize it, we think we're going to build a new building on this site where we are today, and that certain elements of that new building are all of the existing functions and the police function of the marshal's office. Some optional components of a new building are dispatch program or administration. So in order to start to narrow down on the design and the budget, we need to make that determination as to whether anything beyond those primary items go in this new building. So a kind of common way to scope up a design project at this stage or sort of level of concept maturity is a feasibility and programming study. We did just such a project on the last community center. Of course, this is pretty different because we're talking about kind of essential facilities rather than adding new ones. So this is something that we would have to decide how in detail a design product would be at the end of this. My assumption at this point is that we probably don't get very much. We only get as much of a design product as we need in order to get a credible construction budget estimate. As part of that work, we would do the site conditions analyses that John Berman often recommended. So we've never done an avalanche study for this site. We need to do that. Survey and geotechnical, all that kind of stuff. 6 to 9 months is, I would hope, a conservative estimate for this. I mean, this kind of work in Alta does tend to, we suffer from scope creep. Sometimes we start out with one concept and then we've got the kitchen sink at the end of it. But hopefully we've done enough of this kind of public engagement, pre-planning, so that we can stay on track for an efficient project, which we will need to do, I think, if we're gonna get that 2028 construction breaking ground date. We have $100,000 in the fiscal year 27 capital projects plan, which is of course not been approved. That is a wild, that's a guess. That's a guesstimate based on project budgets for other design work. And so we'll need to refine that. We have been talking about all this with UDOT. We've had a nice meeting with Region 2 and the State Division of Facilities and Construction Management, so they manage all the state's buildings and building projects, to sort of get some advice from those folks on how to think about the design process. So what we know from that is UDOT's still very interested in participating in the building, participating in construction costs, and participating in design. We don't know what a UDOT contribution design to our next design project would be in terms of numbers, but they're certainly important. So something that came out of that discussion with UDOT and DFCM is that we've been talking about this something of building as a phased process. So we would either have one contract with some, I mean, we only have one design contract from start to construction, essentially phases. But as we've talked about it in the past, such as in our September special meeting, we were talking about essentially separate design contracts. So we would hire an architect to do feasibility programming, hire an architect to do 6% design, or some other level, intermediate level design, and then a final design project. That struck DFCM as yet quick.
Meaning you change the firms or you change people?
No,
Just mean you have separate contracts.
Separate contracts, essentially because we don't know what our budget is. We don't know what our funding mechanism is. So I may have misheard the council member, but my assumption is that we would take a phased approach to design. I don't know, and what I mean to say today is that I don't know if that's realistic. It sounds onerous, doesn't it? I think potentially maybe.
And when you say you don't know, I'm assuming the design budget comes out of the capital fund, not the operational fund.
Well, that is a great comment. That's a great question. I think we've determined that yet. That's my assumption is that we do fund design out of the capital fund. So, that one way to do it would potentially be for us to line up the funding and design the building. But obviously there are pitfalls with whatever you go. My assumption has been that we will fund design out of the capital projects fund subsequent to a feasibility programming study. And then what will remain after. Yeah. So anyway, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Any questions on the design process? So here's that timeline I've been waving around. Greened out the public meeting and the first quarter of 2026. It's now quarter 2 of 2026 as that's the shopping mall. You are here flag there to illustrate where that's where the Orange Julius stand is. We're in quarter 2 and our task between now and June is to get this committee fired up so we can talk some more about that. The only other changes to this one are that I did have another design phase in here in previous versions, and now I've just got programming and site conditions and design phase 2. So living document. The town hall meeting. I think it went really well. It was super well attended. You know, it's not saying
look like that.
this is like the first Our Lady of the Snows picture in our local database. That's yeah, this was the weekend before the epic storm cycle, and that's Connor Worth, who I think ran snowblower for about 3 weeks straight there in March of 2023. Yeah, well attended. I thought really good engagement. I think the community, to me, at least the folks who were in the room, understand the need and understand the probability that, we're gonna be funding it locally. So I was relieved for that. I guess I didn't have another expectation, but you never know. You never know how many people are gonna show up. So thank you for any work you did to get participation. I think we all know what the presentation entailed. We did talk a bit about the committee, the notion of committee. And told them we would most likely make a selection of committee members today, and that we would potentially try to host some sort of facility tour before the end of the ski season, which is of course in 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So we definitely get a move on that. I think it's certainly possible. And I get the impression that this is a topic of conversation. I think people, have been following along to various extents as we put stuff out there. A lot of folks in the room, and that discussion has continued in the alleyways and back offices. So on to the committee. We can choose any name for it we want. I'm gonna just give kudos to Molly again for thinking of this this great acronym, which is not as short as I was initially hoping, but the Citizens Advisory Panel to Improve the Town of Alta sounds like
You got a war.
it's not catchy in itself, but the acronym is perfect.
That's a great acronym.
It's just a little bit Parks and Rec and downtown realistic, so it's good. We intend for this committee to be, convened of volunteers for it to propose, review and propose funding options and our capital improvement projects, and then make recommendations to the council. So, the town, the staff will provide the design products and the range of options, and the committee will convene to discuss them and just help us narrow it down as we go to the council. We have a number of applications that were in the packet. We did get one additional application that's we sent out. We don't know what the meeting schedule is going to be. We'll probably let the committee figure that out once they meet. We've talked about whether this would be an Open Public Meetings Act compliant committee. I think my instinct initially was to try to avoid it, but in talking with staff and council, this committee it's not a formal public body with jurisdiction or authority, but they're sort of formally and informally empowered to make financial recommendations to the council. So we think it needs to be noticed and recorded, at least a bare minimum level in compliance with the act. Yeah.
Does that mean that 3 people can't get together and have conversations? Like the 3 of us can't have dinner?
That's a great question, because I think that would be significant hindrance to their ability to shape and have free flow info.
That is an interesting. Of course, I didn't ask the local council to join this meeting. We can discuss this some more. There are going to be some we probably should discuss that. I guess my instinct is to say,
You don't know.
I'm not going to share my instinct.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Very good point. So it's kind of, maybe this isn't the forum to talk about it, but it's like, first of all, the capital committee is great because we've got a lot of interest from our citizens, and we are asking them for money, so we are asking for capital, so
Yeah,
that's great. That looks like a dog print rather than people saying.
It's not
Around the thing. Yeah, it looks like a dog print. And I think that since they don't have power, but we're asking them to help us out. but we're asking for their opinion, and we're not asking them to like tell us what to do, and we're not empowering them. Then I think it would be really sad if three of them couldn't get together, because a lot of people who applied are actually know each other very well and are gonna naturally get together. And so that would be a hard thing, I think, with that regulation in there. So I'd hate to see that be a limiting thing to this community.
Especially since they wouldn't have received any training to make sure you
Yes.
don't do any compromising things, but in the spirit of what you're bringing up, and I think in what you're trying to accomplish, Chris. If you don't make it, the formal public thing, you can still record it and, annotate notes. So that we've got a record of what was said without
That's great.
codifying it, and I think that's probably the smart way to go if we can get Paulie or Cameron to weigh in.
You could just do it on like a Zoom and have your Google Meets just record it, then it's easy to have it publicly recorded.
So it kind of moves back another direction, but I think that's the smart thing, because you really want people to just talk amongst themselves, 2, 3,
Yeah.
4, 20, whatever.
We don't want this to be
That way.
inhibition to dialogue, and as you conjure that, I think the notion of, like, we're never gonna get general community participants who don't participate in public meetings and go to OPMA trainings, which we conduct in person every January, to kind of appreciate all that. So it's a really good point. I think we should talk to the legal counsel about that.
Yeah, and the whole point here is to get grassroots support, so it's gotta be informal, do coffees and stuff like that, so.
Especially if people come on or people drop off for whatever
Yeah.
reasons, because they're not obligated the way we are, they didn't sign up for a 4-year thing, really.
Yeah, fair point. Okay, so these are the signups we received by a deadline, I sent out to the council. I'm not sure we posted it on the website. We did get another application from Paul Mader, who's a Powder Ridge property owner. He was active in the discussion during the town hall meeting. He's clearly super interested. He's put a bunch of extra time into talking to council members and written up a proposal for how the committee could work. So Paul is out there as an applicant. We can certainly put his answers on the screen. Otherwise, get a pretty nice cross section of folks with different sort of stakeholderships and outlook. We've got residents, voters, owner of different kinds of property. We've got Rosie from the Elk Lodge.
Who checked 3 boxes, the only person who.
Right, that's right. Well, it's important to get business operators. So, yeah, and we've got folks from different neighborhoods. So I think we have a nice selection to choose from here.
Few comments, one, my expectation was we'd be lucky if we got 6 applicants. So I'm really happy that we got more than we need.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to the engagement that started at the town meeting, so I think we did a nice job there. And then I think we need to make a selection. I don't think that's something we should do in an open meeting like this, so I assume we'll either delegate it to a small group of people, so it's not an open meeting act, or do it in a closed meeting.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
You can discuss in a closed meeting, but you'll have to make a decision in an open meeting.
Yeah. Well,
That's what I'd
Take
say
the action.
ahead of time too.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens.
This is great.
So I think we've talked about diversity of interest as being the primary selection criterion we would use. There are a couple, there's for instance a trio of individuals from Powder Ridge who are interested, and they all seem qualified. And then we also have a number of employee housing residents, and so my preference is to leave it to the council to sort of sort through those kinds of qualifications to make those final selections. At the end of the day, we do want to make this as informal as possible while ensuring it's efficient and productive and compliant with the law to the extent that's important. We don't have a resolution to make an appointment, so if we get there today. You can, a council member can make a motion to appoint Ronald McDonald, Albert Einstein, so on and so forth, so. And we can second.
I didn't see your name on the list.
No. You're a little hard to. Are we good on the committee? Okay.
I'm just so psyched that we had so many people.
I am too.
That's-
I was hoping we'd get one.
Yeah.
I know, we had a couple others who dropped out as
Yeah.
well.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so on to the next topic. A few of you have asked me about this, over the past several months. I hope you can appreciate why I would hesitate to get into it because it's really complex. It's bound to be, I don't know about controversial, but, a matter of great interest. And obviously, we're just so early in the process. But anyways, it's a big deal, so one way or the other, we gotta pull the Band-Aid off. How much would a GO bond cost property owners? It depends on a variety of factors. Especially the principal, so the size of the loan, the interest rate, which, who knows, where those will be headed by the time we're ready to do this. And then the term of the bond, 20-year term is pretty common. I do remember the council talking about a 10-year term, back in September. I think we need to get our municipal advisor on board to help us think through all of that. One thing I will highlight for folks as they start to ponder their impacts on themselves and their property tax bills is that when we're talking about any tax rate, you're not thinking about the Zestimate or the market value, what you're gonna sell your house for, what the county assesses the market value as. You think about the taxable value. So with a residence that gets a primary residential exemption, that's after the 45% comes off. It's a little confusing on the tax notices because the boldface value is the market value. Your tax rate is after that arithmetic. So the value that you pay your mosquito abatement district tax on, or your town of Alta municipal levy on, is that taxable value. Here's the punchline. So we don't know how much we'll seek to borrow, our range of options, or that we'll borrow money at all, to be clear. But we don't know what our construction budget is. I think the range of options is, 8 to 18 million. Maybe on the lower side of that. 8 million is the replacement cost of this building in Alta Central as they are sort of set up today. So anyways, you can see across the columns, what the tax impact is here. I did take some input to take zeros out of the big numbers and take out small decimal points like tax rates. But you can see that a $5 million bond to a $15 million bond, the difference in the increase in the combined tax rate would be between 7 and 22%. I did look up the combined tax rate at Snowbird, which is in unincorporated Salt Lake County, prior to coming over here today. And those down there on your Cliff condominium or whatever property that you own down there, the combined tax rate amounts to like $11,850 per million. So this $10 million bond, assuming a 4.25% interest rate, the 20-year term, would put our combined property tax rates on a level that's similar to Snowbird. If that's interesting, which it may
They're
or may
really identical to Snow.
Yeah, very close.
And that's because all of them are already subject properties, so they don't get that 45%
Nope.
discount.
No, because that's per $1 million in taxable value, so that is after you do the arithmetic.
So it's apples to apples.
It's apples to apples. The reason why their tax rates are so much higher is that their municipal services are much more expensive. Particularly their police services. So this is what this is what our property tax structure looks like now. This is this is a simplified approach where we combine all the schools related. All of that goes directly to our school district. Same with Salt Lake County, that's just a combination of tax rates that have the word county in the name. So I'm not sure if Salt Lake County plus all those. UFA is we obviously miscellaneous is the Mississippi Basin District, which is always my favorite, and Central Utah Water Conservancy District, which is also a great taxing in my opinion. So 8%, so we take 8%, Alta town gets 8% of the total property taxes paid. Alta, this is what it would look like if we applied a $10 million bond at 4.25% interest over 20 years. So our share would go up to just about 20%. Which is not because other entities give up their, it's because we collect more.
It's just the sum, the yellow and the red.
Correct, yes, that's the McDonald's colors there. That's why it's on. Okay, so any questions about that? Yeah, that's big
Yeah.
numbers, yeah, it's really big numbers, so we're really in the process, we've got a lot to figure out. Such as, does it need to be $2 I mean, we, certain things transpire, could have a couple $1 million in the capital projects account, or more. We may have some participation. And, whatever other funding sources can be brought together, so.
Exhausting grants, there's a number of things we can do from a law enforcement standpoint.
You gotta pick a number.
That's a good thing, that's number, Chris.
So
That was a good job.
unfair, this is probably not the place to ask this question, but it's crazy, right? Like 350 citizens of Alta do not generate all the police business, and so we're gonna build this very expensive multi-billion-dollar building for the police, but I do agree that we need the citizens of Alta have to pay for something that visitors generate all of the action. I mean, I don't think many Altans get arrested or drunk drive or have their dog out. It's like, I mean, some of us do, but it's like, why are we paying for that? And why is the state paying for some of it, or why isn't there a fund for us, or why doesn't like Visit Salt Lake, Ski, Utah pay for it?
Those are great questions for which we have no answers.
Correct.
Sorry.
Already direct control over the answer to, but.
Or out the lift company.
Right. Well, I guess I would, certainly hear those questions, and something I would say is that. It's up to us to decide where we get our municipal services, it's up to Alta voters and taxpayers, and we make the choice to have a municipal government. We could choose not to, and then we'd have to have UPD, and you would have the same tax rate, you would have that tax rate.
Or sheriff's department, or when it switches again, and you can go ad nauseum down that.
I mean, if
path.
that's the answer, but I think that's something that we need to explain to
Yeah,
our
I think-
citizens,
I
because
think
it is
we
a
are.
really interesting
Yeah.
kind of problem that happened.
I think it's gonna take a long time.
Okay,
Yeah, to explain this, and maybe we're not successful, maybe we decide it's not the right thing, right?
But some of those, and they're good questions, but like, different government entities are not, if this isn't squarely within their scope of responsibility, they do not cough up their budget dollars. So we're left holding the bag to a certain extent, but I think leveraging the things that we've discussed preliminarily, partnerships and grants in particular and then the general obligation bond, of course, eases the pain some. We're not having to pay for it all. I think you have to, it's gonna be an amalgam. And I think we'll get there for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, levying taxes fairly is probably an age-old problem.
Yeah.
And we'll do the best we can, but it won't be the best, it won't be the super premium best.
we'll see. Uncharted territory, I mean, you know, we got some fruit, it was helpful for somebody in the special meeting to point out that we essentially got buildings for free. I don't think that's quite true in this case, I don't know at all whether it's the case without the central, but we did like sell fund out of the general fund, the town office building. And of course, we bought a little less, so in like 56 and 4 buildings, we've paid $1.4 million for 4 buildings. And whatever we paid to turn this building into a town Belton building. I think, you know, maybe 100,000 to build a post office or something 25 years ago. We didn't save up to replace buildings that are obviously gonna fall apart. So.
But what's great about all of that is it's not the cost of the building or the structures, it's what's in them that has been exceptional. AMO, the staff, it's a really great town, it's run well, it's safe, and we take care of so many people that are way beyond the town's.
The complexities of the watch system would be impossible to.
How could we possibly expect Salt Lake County to do the kinds of codes and ordinances we need up here? They're not gonna care.
Yeah, we can call the folks in Brighton if we want to talk about that alternative.
Yeah. Okay, you wanna say something about the municipal advisor or?
Yes, so we've talked about this a little bit, we think it's prudent to try to engage one as soon as possible. It's entirely common that cities looking to debt finance any project, engage a municipal advisor. You know, the market is a challenging place to operate without guidance. We're not actually required to have municipal advisors, we're required to get a bond counsel. But we should, I strongly recommend we look into getting a municipal advisor. It was interesting to find the federal statute where municipal advisors are defined. It sounds like a really generic term to me, right? Like, we're all municipal advisors.
Got plenty of advice.
And we don't know how we're gonna cover the costs, but my understanding is that it's fairly common for, you know, they just make a fee proposal to get compensated when debt is issued. So, you know, that's a little bit outside the scope of what we often contemplate in our purchasing policy, but we'll think about that as we write out the scope and get going. That sounds good.
Sounds good. That last one sounds good to me.
Okay, so yeah, we're early in the process. We're talking about big numbers. We don't know if they'll come to fruition. There are other funding options out there. And we need to get going on a committee and all that other stuff. So there are questions on facilities.
Yeah, nicely done.
Yeah. I think so.
Okay, let's move on to the next item. Which is UDOT's update on resort bus stop planning. And I've asked Mike to join with Devin to discuss this because Mike and team have done some interesting work that's of value here. Plus, what I want to do is taking the prerogative of the chair, take the citizen input that pertains to this particular issue and move it up to the first part of the town council meeting. So after, because you get to, you'll stick around for it. So yeah. Okay, who is gonna start? Are you gonna start, Devin? Sure. All right.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Devin Weeder, UDOT project manager for the Common Canyon Transit program. I guess so, you know, since the last time we came, where we talked about, you know, is the mine done in the right location, path forward on that. Mike and I from Alpesilas have been talking, and we don't have an exact idea yet. And the thing that came to my mind is that I don't really know what this town wants from this bus stop, right? Like, in questions of, does the town want 80%? Does the town? What is the, you know, what are the priorities for the town? And so that's where I was like, it's important to me that this meets the needs both for skiers and people who wanna recreate and also for the town. And so when I realized I didn't really understand what that priority is, if we're going to look at other locations. Then when we look at other locations, I wanted to know what that is. And so I don't really have a lot of updates other than I'm really interested to hear what that priority is. And it doesn't need to be defined right now, but as we keep moving forward.
Let me speak to that from my point of view. I feel that, a bus system is successful if and only if it reduces congestion. And it's not gonna reduce the congestion unless it's attractive to riders. Okay, now there are ways of coercing riders, which is the tolling. But you'd really have to prefer to have riders say, gee, this is a better option than driving my car. Okay, so I've put riders into 3 bins. And bin 1 I would call them foot traffic only. And those are people who are coming up here, don't intend to ski. In fact, all of them coming up here in the summer don't intend to ski, they're coming up here to enjoy the environment. And in the winter, there are people who are employees going to businesses. And what they want is ease of getting to and from their destination. Being a relatively short walk, be nice if it were downhill, both get off the bus and get on the bus, which is possible. So there's a convenience, once they need to match their schedule and be delivered to a place where they want to go or close enough. Okay, bin 2 are skiers carrying their equipment. They don't have any stored equipment here, they're got them with them. And their criteria, what attracts them is ease of getting to and from lift. That's what they're looking for. And it's the quality of the ride. And by that, the first element of the quality of the ride is, do I get to sit down? Because if I don't, the quality of the ride is gonna be lousy. And the third category, third bin, are skiers heading for an on-site stored equipment. They've got a locker here, or some way of putting most of their stuff, and they can access that fairly easily from where they get on the bus. So ease of getting to storage, and of course the ability to find storage and the cost of it. So those are the kinds of factors that I envision in making this thing a success. Now, those of us at the table live here, so I know we don't take the bus. And so we're only kind of trying to put our minds in somebody else's head. So I'm looking for people who are potential bus riders or current bus riders to weigh in here for your benefit. But if I've interrupted your presentation, which
I don't have, and so that's where that's what I wanna hear is, cause what came to my mind is, does the town want it, like, is there something about it being in the center of town that is attractive to the town, right, is it, but. Cause I hear it in Big Cottonwood, it's like, people are like, well, I do actually wanna use the bus service, like residents say that, right, so I'm like, is there a contingent of residents that would be upset if it's only in the ski resorts? Right, and does not stop along 210 on the road, right? And it doesn't mean that we have to have the main stop be up here. That can be a secondary stop. But when we're going towards this final route planning, that's what I started thinking through of, if we are gonna move it, are there gonna be a group of people that say, hey, well, like, it was actually awesome? Because we move it into the base locations, it's really hard to provide that large structure with all the lockers, because then we'd have a really large impact on how the ski lifts, their parking and private property. And ski operations and snow storage. So that's why there's trade-offs if we just go into and there's also trade-offs when we think about the operation side, which leads to either an increase in cost or a decrease in the frequency. Right, as we start to have to deal with these issues of being stuck in the parking lot traffic. So there's always a trade-off where you might get straight to where you wanna go. But it takes the bus 5 minutes to get there, and it takes the bus 5 minutes to get out of there, and only would have taken you 1 minute to walk it. And that's kind of the trade-off that we had to make at Solitude, was it's not gonna drop you off right at the bottom of the ski lift anymore, but you don't spend 10 or 20 minutes crawling through the parking lot. You walk through the parking lot. So there really is that's just the kind of trade-offs that the mind dump is the most challenging of the 4 stops that I'm looking at. Because it's gonna take it would take significant investment from someone, but ski lifts, UDOT, town, to make it functional.
Your 4 stops on.
Oh, sorry, Solitude, Brighton, Snowbird, Alta.
Okay, you're not.
Yeah, not talking 4 stops.
I was like, what's the 4?
No, the four building that we're looking at building.
Oh, okay.
You know, this is the most complicated in terms of getting people to and from the resort. It's not, we have an investment in Solitude into a bridge, but there's no operations, right? Because you build a bridge once and then save up for the replacement in 7 years. And then someone has to shovel. But this would be, some kind of mechanical conveyance up and down the slope. There's gotta be some way for people to get to and from the mine dump down to the resort. It's complicated for employees who aren't maybe on skis, right? And then if you're at one of these hotels, then you're gonna walk along the road. And so that's why this is a challenging location. And that's why, I'm open to looking at other areas, but just understanding that then that has ripple effects if you're on the service, and it has effects on what the potentials are that we can build. Because then we're looking at trade-offs with ski lifts and saying, hey, like, what would you be willing to give up in your parking lot, like Brighton has, and because that's not somewhere that I want to come in and say, like, here's the building, we're gonna stick it in your parking lot and you're gonna deal with it, right? Like, we're serving their customers, there's not a reason to create animosity with this ski resort. And so that's where where this location has some parking on it, but it is not attractive parking for most people because it's far away from the resort. And that's what I'm going through, is I'm trying to find other locations that are possible. And it's really the extent of what I had.
It's the road to nowhere if you plant it here, so I think it answers Roger's first question that. You're gonna build this wonderful service, but it's gonna be really challenging to use. Because if you're carrying your stuff, or you've got a kid with you, or you're an employee, you got dumping, unless you work for the bustler. And so, it seems like it would be a lot of expense that would make the project really sad. Did you, put some of the, so your question about the shuttle in town, it's a pretty small town, right? It's only like a mile. So like most of us who live here, like we walk everywhere anyway. I don't think any of us would be sad if there wasn't a regular bus service in Alpha. I don't know if you ever looked at like data from the shuttle and how many citizens use it, where they go, or did you put any of the UTA questions that were generated through all the gondola stuff into some like AI program and say, where did you go when you ride the bus? Well, why did you stop riding it? Did you go there to backcountry ski? Because maybe you would be able to get some of your answers to your questions from the actual users.
Yeah, so we know, I have all of UTA's data, so up until I stopped serving Albion, I know exactly where everyone went. It's really just more the question of, that's all the UTA's really ever served. So I don't wanna just base it off of what they've served, I wanna make sure that I'm understanding, is there an unmet demand and I actually have not seen shuttle data, I have ridden shuttle. But I don't know if there's even tracking data on there, it's not we have that, it would be super helpful to see it running through the transit plan over the next year or two. To be able to say, oh, there actually is a real big demand, we should, it's never gonna be, to your point, it's never gonna be 90% roughly of people are going to the resorts. But we don't wanna say that 10% don't matter. Right, they should get 10% of the service.
Right, but if they're going back to skiing, it's probably easier for them to walk from the bus stop at. The gold miners uphill or wherever they choose to start with
Right.
entry than it is. For the person with their children to walk down or go through the ramp or go through some kind of complicated phase, if you're heading to backcountry ski. You could stop at whatever bus stop.
Right, you're probably not taking your 4 kids back into skiing.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what, in a big conference, right, that's what we took into account, right, it's like, we're gonna give backcountry skiers service. Understanding that it's backcountry ski, right, so you get. It's a lower demand, so you get stopped on the side of the road, it's safe and comfortable, and you can get out of the bus and go along your way up the hill. Same with Solitude, right, like, we know there's a lot of people who want backcountry at Solitude, so we try to site it in a place that works for everybody. And weighting it towards the resort skiers who are 90% of people riding. So that's the same method I wanna take here and just, understand. Yeah, we're not just doing it just for backcountry skiers. But it's just, this is a really challenging environment specifically now, so. Like,
Depends
if
on your
not-
mindset, right? Cause your mindset could be, oh, this is such a wonderful environment, I can just keep the 2 stops that I've had.
Well, yeah, I guess I'd say, yes, we can do that. That just means we don't invest the $10 million in the building, because which is fine, like, we can save from the.
You could put it in this building.
Well, I can't, by code, it has to be spent on the bus stops.
Well, how's your snowplow?
The snowplow is actually not part of that.
Yes,
Yes. So, but that's just to say, like, I'm open to it, it's something that I've talked to Mike about is. This money isn't tied to a year, it's not tied to you must build it by X day, otherwise the money goes away, so we can. Start it, we can try some smaller improvements to see if we can get it to work in a good way at Albion and at Wildcat, that's a possibility.
So you have $10 million for a hub in Alta, so 5 and 5, if that's how.
Right,
we
the
decide
money is,
on a
yeah, it's like,
partnership or
we'd have to revise the environmental document, because the environmental document says it's there, right, but like. Whatever we come up with, we can start saying, okay, let's pause on that. Wait, let's try and do some smaller improvements, and what those look like, do a small revision of the environmental document, to say we're gonna do small improvements here. Work our way towards that, right, that would reduce the amount of money we have to spend in the end. But nothing says like we have to spend $10 million, it has to be right here. Yeah, spend it all at once, right, like this is just, we cleared that. But we can keep looking at other options, because going along with that, it wouldn't look great if you guys went and built this whole thing. And we didn't have the ski resort on the work to go and build the back part to get to, right, like to your point, that it takes up for it, like, that doesn't make sense. But I still like, my concern with going to the resort bases is the same thing in GAC over. Part of the reason why they stopped serving Albion, right, buses get stuck. They lose their frequencies, they lose their headways, and it's tough. Right, but we have the capital right now to make improvements, and so maybe there's ways we can improve that and make it work, and not open that.
So comment and a couple of questions. So the comment is, I think Roger nailed it when he said the number one issue up here is gonna be the success criteria, the reduction of congestion. And Mike has already observed that, well, the congestion's way worse when it's snowing. So when we get the snowplows up here, that's gonna be the biggest advantage. We agree with that. We hope we come to some sort of.
I'm totally on board with that. I don't know if I can fund it personally, not personally. My problem, I can fund it by some code, but it's something that I don't support and fully pushing on, you must say, yeah.
So aside from the snowplows, I think after that, it's gonna be the convenience and how many people we can get onto the bus, that's gonna be the big determinant. And but recognize that the real problem around here is a peak loading problem, which has been massively exacerbated by these ski tickets that I don't particularly like. And what really happens is when you have the confluence of it's snowing, it's a good powder day. We have this massive spike in demand and congestion. So the question that I actually have two. One, how soon do you need our feedback? I know you're on timeline, just like Chris is on timelines.
I would say like we're not gonna really start diving down into the detail of this until late May, early June. So like that's, you have, I would say 2 months, really like, and it doesn't need to be like detailed feedback, but just that priority of like what you think. Because if that's your priority is reduce congestion so that everyone feels it less, that's what we can aim for, right? And that is a good guidance, that it's not, hey, like, because some towns would say, I'm not saying you should say this, but some towns would say, hey, we want it right in the middle, we have this huge development plan, if you don't give us this 10 million investment in the center of town, we're gonna be mad.
It's not.
I just wanted to make sure that wasn't the answer.
That's not us.
Yeah, and so that's totally fine, and yeah, I would say, yeah, probably late May, early June, okay, that's when we're really diving into it.
The second question is, because it is a massive peak loading problem that is also weather dependent. Have you guys considered variable tolling? Meaning only tolling on specific days or even price, it's a holiday day, so we're gonna raise our
Yeah,
rates.
that's actually directly built into the program that we've applied for.
Okay.
It's the value pricing pilot program, which is congestion based and variable, and we've always left it open. So that we're able to say it's nothing, or it's something, or it's a lot, depending on, to get that change in behavior.
Devin, one thing I'd offer that I think you can take away and probably rely on as a pretty solid constant is the emphasis on congestion relief. Because a lot of the things that you talk about do change with the weather, which makes it very unpredictable from a programmatic standpoint, and trends change over 5, 10, 20 years. So building structures around certain types of peaks or certain types of interests, changing climate is going to change some of that too. And I think the focus on congestion will serve you really well. So I take that as a really strong starting point.
No, that's great, and that's part of what makes Alta, well, I'm gonna go back to challenging, it's like. The big continent is super easy because they're very like, this is solid, this is Brighton, this trailhead, where here it's like, 2 different locations. And how do you serve all of that in a convenient way with the bus system? It's not, it's just more challenging, and so that's what going, trying to get everyone on the bus and make it nice, it's gonna be the biggest.
Yeah,
And incentivize people instead of disincentivize.
the other place where we get congestion and get crowding is not in the town. It's miles short.
Sorry, has nobody asked for 2 stops or 1 stop, or what are you doing?
We're going through the same thing now, because it's the same thing of, they have 2, we're gonna do each 1, which makes more sense for them for like an improvement perspective of actually building something. But they still have a ton of employees that are 4
Yeah.
and in between. And so that's where we're looking through, when we go to the final route planning. How do we make it work with multiple stops without making it easy? Right, and that's the number 1 complaint that you will probably hear today. Across the whole system is the buses show up full. No matter like if you're coming up or down, right? And so then if that's the major complaint. I don't wanna just like fix that without fixing anything else, and cause other problems, but there are some pretty good ways to fix that with direct service. So that you're not having people just constantly saying, why is the bus always full when I try to get on? On downhill, it's stupid, right? Because everyone got on the outside. But there's ways to solve that, that's what we're looking through the training planning, which could allow you to have stops without learning the issue of just, the whole thing was always full.
I think we ought to give Mike a chance to say something about all this.
I'm good ideas.
So we've been, Devin and I talked a couple of times, as we've talked before, the bus stop, it doesn't really go where they want to go. It doesn't work, it's not gonna work for the ski area. It causes major disruption in the way, how you get people up and down the hill and regular trail. Stuff. So we explored, I know Devin, a week ago, we explored other places in town. To have but the criteria we started with is how do we just have the buses stay on the main line and service the stops, and so we looked at the place above the Alta Lodge Tow. And we looked at a place up at the end, up in the Grizzly Lot, with potentially stairways and escalators and such to get people up and down the slopes. Where structures could be built. I took that back to the Alta management team, and all of our team, we sat down, we went through them and said, okay, can we make these work? We came away with a couple things, as didn't look like, Gold Miners has property at the top of the Alta Lodge Toll that would be needed to do something there. They're not interested in relinquishing any of their property. The Grizzly lot, it's narrow, we need all that snow storage up there. It doesn't take people exactly where they want to go. We came back and have suggested to Devin and his team to look at continue servicing the two base lots. And we make improvements in the Wildcat lot, we move a bus stop onto the north side of the bottom of the ramp, we take out the old lift tower, we fix the entry. So buses can get in and out better, and they're lined up in the right orientation to go up the ramp, they're not trying to make a turn when they start up the ramp. Those type of things, so that you don't have traction issues. And then in the Albion Day Lodge, we propose, widen the entry to the Albion Day Lodge. So that there's more room for bus traffic to get in and out and not be impeded by traffic, move the stop further towards the entrance, and that we service, we've been servicing. For over 25 years, the buses have successfully serviced Albion Wildcat lots. So when UTA made the change, they had one bus that about couldn't make the turn at Wildcat. And since that day, they refused to go to Albion. Despite it working for 25 plus years. So we think that's an appropriate solution. We're interested in moving that in that direction. We've made those suggestions to you about Devin's open to those, but he wants to know what the rest of the community thinks. So that's kind of where we're at, and in addition, it'd be nice to have buses that could drive at the speed limit. It would be really good because we're impeded by that a little bit. When it comes to moving vehicles up and down traffic. And then the other thing is if we can keep the traffic moving in the lower canyon and between Alton and Snowbird, the buses won't get gridlocked. Because it doesn't matter if the stop is center of town or just Wildcat, they still go into gridlock and the road goes into gridlock. And everything gets. That's our priority, is how to keep the traffic moving, take the people where they want to do. We think it can be done. It's the two main stops and potentially pull stop in town, too. They can just pull and say you're getting off at the Wrestler or you're getting off at the Peruvian. That will service. That would take us back to the level of service that we used to have. But we could make it more efficient and better with minor. We spend. That's kind of where we're at, but Devin's been open to feedback and taking information. My understanding is it's got $10 million and trying to decide if they can spend it on a structure. They also need to get in the queue at the Forest Service if there is going to be anything gonna happen on Forest Service property. So that's one of the reasons you're trying to get it figured out.
And the bigger the improvement, the longer it'll take to get through the special use permit process, right? Because if it's a structure, that's like, could be a year. If it's just smaller things, that can be much faster. It still takes time. And so the longer we take to decide what to do, the longer it takes to get it done. But if we want to start small, then that's not a big issue.
And Devin and I talked today, and he said that if we wanted to jointly put together a letter from the town, the skier, and the Alton community that are supporting the direction, he would welcome that as some direction to kind of go forward.
Right. Yeah, kind of that way. It's like it doesn't need to be something ultra formal, but just saying like, hey, here's our priorities and here's what we want to see out of this, right?
Well, Mike, I noticed that you wrote that memo on Sunday, so you're working hard. And I appreciate the clarity of having the maps and the whole.
And that's just fascinating that you would support that. That's really cool. Did you guys have any idea of the people who rode the bus previously? What percentage are out of town guests? What percentage are locals? Do locals ever ride the bus like all the time? What percentage of the bus users are employees? And I know that that's probably changed over the years, but what's your sense on that?
We have snapshots from a different time the UTA has done surveys, but it's not continuous. It is a lot more local. I'm surprised by how high of a visitor, like out of town use it does have even today. I don't know the exact percentages, but I'm always surprised when I go and wait to stop, as Bree saw me doing awkwardly the other day as I waited to watch everything go. But it's surprised by how many people are like, oh yeah, I heard there's bus service and I didn't want to drive up the canyon, and it's a sunny day. They just, people from out of town don't like driving canyons.
So that we do know, we issue all of the employees get passes. And there are different type of bus, but it's happening. We know what percentage of bus ridership employees, what percentage of season pass holders. The percentage that actually pay to ride the bus is quite small, which would be a bit.
It's like less than 5%, what I think around what you said, I mean, someone's paying. But they're not buying a day pass.
People that have, we have a bunch of people who have seasonal walkers and they ride the bus. When Albion went offline, they started driving, they don't ride the bus anymore, the ones that still have lockers on the Wildcat side, ride the bus. There's a fair number of employees, and there are, I run into people all the time that, I'm staying I'm from out of town, I'm staying at some hotel that's near a bus stop. And they figured out how to use the bus and not have to drive, it's just not it's a small number, it's used more by locals significantly, like 90% by locals.
More, yes, students, younger people, but every time, cause I hear there's a lot of people saying, well, how do I get my family on the bus? And I'm always surprised by how many families I see on the bus, like it's not as much on powdered ones, but it is a lot of people on sunny days that are like. But I'm on the bus, I don't know their logic behind it, but they do it. Other questions? I guess I would just say, this is kind of a slight tangent, but for the latest Friday traffic, we were actually coming up for a meeting at Snowbird, Bree and I. It's very surprising even still how on a sunny day, the day after a storm, it's still really, really backed up in the mountain. And so even though we talk about congestion and how the issues we're gonna have up in the top of the canyon in the mornings. There's still gonna be a lot of improvement that could be had at the bottom for the buses and how the buses can get to the mouth. Because if you can get it past the hour of gridlock, that's an hour of time savings, and that alone is what's gonna change people's behavior.
That's why I think that becomes a really great anchor point for you, which is congestion relief through many mechanisms. But with the money you've got and the charter that you have, I think by doing that, it helps with those periods when it's the worst.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I think that's an easy.
The other thing that we've suggested, I've talked to Devin a little bit about is, it would be really beneficial if we could have parking structure close to the mouth of the canyon, right up and down. His indication is there is concern that if they were to try to develop a parking structure, it would be viewed as a step in the gondola implementation and would probably be in a lawsuit again. So I think an important part of that is if we could get the community together and even the opposition together and say, is it acceptable for us to build a parking structure to help with the bus service? Is there a way to do that in a way that doesn't end up in stopping all progress because now someone's filed a opposition to that.
Should be built somewhere that there would not be a tower near it or anywhere that connected.
But it raises a question though, I mean, is it for our little canyon, does the $10 million we have as an allocation have to be somewhere above mile marker 9, that can it be down at the mouth of the canyon?
No, that's just in the project budget, and then the only issue, like I said, would be you'd have to revise the record of decision for whatever it would have.
Okay.
But so the issue, partly yes, like we do have a planned parking garage in the mouth of the canyon. It is for the funnel, right? So the second you start developing that, there could be opposition. We're in a current lawsuit, they could file a preliminary injunction, which is, we have not had a preliminary injunction at this point, which is why we're able to move forward. And we're appreciative of that we're able to work that out and not have it happen. So that's, but also it's just money, right? Like $10 million not build much for parking. It's about $30,000 to $60,000 per parking slot, per parking structure. Sometimes it's 30, sometimes 60, depends on what you're doing, where you're doing it. That's a lot of money, and that's not including right of way costs, right? And we're seeing that even in our current estimates as we're getting underway in the gravel pit. And as we look at other locations, like the Canyon just built a large parking garage, so it's expensive. And if you talk about, we need a lot of that. We need that for 2050, right? For the gravel pit. For Baycon alone, right? So then if you start talking about another one, that's another 50 million minimum. And even if you're doing, it's not only just the environmental side and the lawsuit side, it's also just more money. And it's not something that could never be done because it's obviously the plan to move forward. It's just we need additional funds for that.
Okay, I think I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn the work session.
I move that we close the work session.
We need to take a short break.
Sure. After we close, right? I move.
Second.
All in favor? Yes.
Yes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes strategy.
Yeah.
And either one or two, you guys.
You say,
Ahoy! Oh. Okay, Henry, you get to say that in public in just a moment. All right, very left. All right, what I wanna do now is move that portion of citizen input that pertains to the topic we just heard to right now, while it's still fresh in our ears, what Nevin said, what Mike said, so. Anybody here who wants to comment on the bus business? Henry, go ahead.
Let's bring up. Let's go.
Hello, my name is Henry Sapolsky. I don't live here. I do live at the Oaks, Swamp One, and I fought to get the bus reinstituted. Luckily, that part happened. I gotta tell you, the rest of it. I do not use the bus. Reason I don't is because it doesn't meet the simple criteria of what the service used to be. And it's very hard to hear that the manager over here understands that perfectly. First things first, I don't know about congestion, I don't know about buildings, I don't know about spending money. Let's take small steps for small people. First, the expectation of people like myself that have a walker, and certainly people have equipment, is can you please get me to my spot so that I don't have to wait for a shuttle much more than 5 minutes. And if there's no shuttle, it's 0. Great. It's 20 to 30 minutes from now. Also, is there someone that can stand up to Snowbird? You get into that lot, it's 4 stops. They have shuttle service, but they use the public bus as their doormat to take people to their cars. They need to be disciplined. It is a big discouragement. I've been 3.5 hours in that lot once. Wow. They need to pick people up at the road, use their shuttle service to get them up to them. And they get 1 more stop. I'm gonna say 2. You know why? You gotta start hard. Start hard. Other than that, the frequency, certainly what they've done is remarkable. As I say, I think your comments need to be listened to very carefully. Start with the easy stuff first. Don't try to work backwards from multi-million-dollar solutions. Look at the problem, address it first, see how it goes. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Henry. Jack?
Hello. Thanks, council. Thanks for having this hearing and inviting us to speak. My name is Jack Stout. Good to see everybody again. I'm the executive director of Save Our Canyons. So as I'm sure a lot of you know, my group has been opposed to the gondola for a long time. Which is, it's nice to be here today because I think it's an opportunity for me to support a lot of the potential opportunities that both Altus Skilos and UDOT are working on to help us look at a new future of what transit could be in the canyon. So I think there's a couple things that stand out to me as important for the town to take into account when thinking about where to put this bus stop or bus mobility hub, and why it's important to do it today. I think that the first thing for me in thinking about like why right now this conversation is important, and while I do agree with Henry, I think there's a lot of small stuff we could do, and it's really hard. I take the bus, and I hopefully will be a future bus rider again. Right now, it's hard. So I think there's a lot of small stuff that could play, but I think the reason that it's important to be having these bigger conversations is because of the region-wide ramifications. Just over the hill in Big Cottonwood Canyon, they are going to be doing this. At Snowbird, they're doing this. So here at Alta, it's important for the town, the ski area, to find a solution for this area to fit into that larger ecosystem of transit. And I think we can definitely talk about better canyon transit from the city to a place that people can park, maybe down outside of the canyon to alleviate traffic. So I think a lot of those conversations are taking place, which is why it's imperative that right now we start thinking about where this lot should go. I think that the other piece of why this big picture project is important is because it's not just a bus stop. It's actually a more of a resource place that community will land and actually have opportunities to have lockers, have amenities, have a nice place to sit and stay warm. So I think thinking about it as a mobility hub, as a terminus for this bus stop is important than just thinking of like one of these small little stations that we're used to. I think that will incentivize people to use the bus and to use transit and to help alleviate some of these traffic congestion problems we've seen year over year. I think that when we get some of these in the next couple of years, when we do get service back up to levels that it was, and hopefully beyond that, people will kind of be retrained to see that it's convenient, comfortable, and something that actually gets them to their first point where they want to go, and have the actual resource to help them be Canyon users for the sake of where they want to be going up here. I think like this, and this is the first I've heard of the scariest plan as far as kind of splitting the mobility hubs into two places in the Wildcat lot and the Albion lot. That sounds like a really great idea. My initial thought, talking to a lot of stakeholders, committee members, that maybe the Albion lot made sense because there's already Alta Sierra infrastructure there, there's lockers, and they are making the lot bigger, so it could be a good place to drop people. But if there's a capacity for having both baseline areas have some of this bus mobility action, that seems to be fitting. And that kind of brings me to my final kind of point of why I think this increase in bus service is imperative, and I think the right way for Canyon Transit to go. That's because it's flexible. We can use these buses to do the first phases of whatever this mobility hub looks like, but then we can revise from there. After a few years of people using this new service and learning it, if there's things that are working well, we can increase that. Things that aren't working, we can decrease it. We can add more stops. We can add dispersed recreation sites. We can use it for 4-season recreation. And I think that's an inspiring piece to me for why busing and connecting that to better citywide transit could be a great alternative to larger infrastructure projects that my organization has been opposed to. And I think we can prove we all work together, help retrain Canyon visitors how to use it. I think we can make it successful. I think we can achieve a lot of the shared goals of the environmental groups, the backcountry skiers, the resort patrons, and people that just want to visit Alta to come look at wildflowers. So I think like my ask is really that the town takes a strong look at these different ideas, works with community members, and comes up with a plan that fits the general needs, fits the wider layout of what's happening regionally, and works together with different stakeholders to make it happen. I probably missed a bunch of my notes, but I sent you all a letter with the whole idea, so you can read that, and I look forward to helping facilitate this in the future and get involved. So thank you so much for
Thanks, Jack. Thanks a lot.
Okay, others, yes.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Irwin. I'm here representing WBA, Wasatch Backcountry Alliance, for those of you who don't know us. And really, I'll keep this pretty brief because I'm typically our treasurer, I don't actually do these. We support a bus terminal in Alta at either the Albion or the Wildcat lots, with a regular stop at the other Alta lot, and at the Summer Road adjacent to the new public restrooms for future summer season. We also support direct bus routes to Alta, Snowbird, and White Pine. Again, this can also service future summers. From the Gravel Pit Mobility Hub and eventually a Southern Mobility Hub in Sandy to allow for direct and efficient service for all users and employees. I think this part really addresses some of the issues where it arrives full, it leaves full, kind of those direct routes we think could really start to solve that problem. Again, as a user of the buses occasionally myself, it's a bit of a struggle. And our last point is we support affordable fees and robust frequency to make riding bus more convenient and increasing the likelihood of real public usage. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger. You have a.
I don't speak well, I'm extemporaneous, or something to read. You have to say who you are, Roger Gare, where you live, 3307 East Wasatch Pines Lane, it's right down by the Bells Canyon parking lot, so we're all by parking lots. So I retired in 1999 from Pennsylvania and was lucky enough to get a dream job at Snowbird Ski Resort, but I wanted to support everything that Mike has said here today as well. And I was able to take the bus to Snowbird Center every day for 15 years. It was a great system. You parked in the parking lot, the swamp lot, got on the bus, got off the bus at the center, went up 3 flights of stairs and bam, you're at work. So you didn't have to walk a mile in sneakers or shoes. I see these kids today parking by Snowbird, like a mile up the road, and they walk in ski boots. So today, 27 years later, and I'm like most of my older friends, probably like most of the older people. You know, I have metal hips, a bunch of knee surgeries, a pacemaker, and yes, and all the things that keep us doing what we love. To be honest, I can walk a mile in shoes, but that's without carrying skis. And both, and it's not at 8,000 feet here. So it's great for the 30-year-olds to be walking a mile, but not for the geriatric crowd. So if the UDOT cares about the senior citizens, the ones who supported them, then the bus stops at Allen need to be right at gold miners and Albion with the shuttle interchange, as Mike said. A proposed stop between Rustler and Alta Lodge is great if you're 30, but for those of us who are old, it's just too far. So I measured the distance from here to go down to gold miners. It's 917 meters. That's 3,100 feet, so it's a half a mile and then a little bit more. So I ask you, please, for your grandmother's sake, would you please put the bus stop right by the slopes, so the slopes won't kill us literally. Thank you.
No, we're not supposed to bring you out. Geriatric crowd. Okay, here's another.
Another geriatric center. You later. Barbara Burke, I am a resident, but I'm also a member of two nonprofits in Alta, Friends of Alta and Guard, although I'm speaking for myself. But I have talked to people in both of those organizations. And much of what I'm gonna say is basically reiterating what's already been said by other people. But clearly a stop in the middle of town where the bus would have to make a U-turn into traffic. And we have no traffic lights right now, and I don't think we would want any, although maybe Mike would disagree, maybe we need them, but. We're trying to slow people down, and so we wanna have a stop that's convenient and safe for everybody. And having it closer to the parking lot where people are already slowing and watching for people walking and so on is much better. The winter frequency again is a peak loading issue, as Craig mentioned, but I think it's also a peak loading issue in the summer. Primarily, people are coming up either in the morning to go hiking or even towards the late afternoon to hike after they've gotten off work. And so having a bus frequency that would handle that kind of peak loading would be great. And as Jen mentioned, there are a lot of people using trails, both White Pine, but there's a trail, there's two trails in Alta. The Albion Basin Trail, Grizzly Gulch Trail, and then also the one that goes up Basic Line. And so there's multiple stops, and as Mike was suggesting, a pole stop would be great. You don't necessarily need a facility there. But again, maybe near that bathroom, the new trailhead bathroom would be perfect for people to stop. And then I also wanted to recognize the benefit to all Alta businesses, not just the resort, but the lodges and where people are coming up potentially for lunch or brunch at the Alta Lodge in the summer. And being able to come up on a bus where you can look at the view and not be focused on the road yourself because somebody else is making sure you're safe would be a benefit, and I think environmentally would be best because we wouldn't all be driving up. So, thank you.
Okay, any other public comments on this issue and only on this issue? Mark?
Listening to the conversation here today, it takes me back to the Mountain Accord process that the town participated heavily in from the get-go, as well as Town Planning Commission and numerous parties here were frequent attendance. I myself followed the Mountain Accord board meetings, but I also followed the council meetings and planning commission meetings. And I would say that the level of discussion here today highlights the fact that there was no such substantive discussion throughout that Mountain Accord process in view, especially in view of the town's stated position back then that in fact, the only solution in the Mountain Core Transportation planning that they were desirous of was a bus solution. And here we are having today, having participated previously in a lot of public meetings, that is, the level of discussion is just not good. Regards making the target being the congestion. So the days that there's large congestion, those are gonna be our target for the UDOT people to mitigate that. Well, my first question is okay, how many days a year does that congestion occur? Just a ballpark. I mean, having been a commuter for 42 years and had a locker for 42 years, I'm pretty familiar with the day in, day out. It begs the question, I'm here to say that if you take all of the employees in town that are getting W-2s, regardless of their origin, and you take the total population of lockers in town, and I've had lockers in 2 different locations. Take all those people out, they're not gonna be any kind of solution. If all those people rode the bus every day, it's not gonna solve a situation where the target is congestion pricing. And so what I would advocate for is to the town council and other interested citizens that have not previously participated, start participating in a greater numbers. In the last 120 months, the only participants really that have been showing up consistently are Mrs. Bork, Long, and myself, Burke, excuse me, Roger. Have a good one.
Okay, any other citizens wishing to comment on this topic, or anybody out there on Zoom land? Right, so in that case, we're gonna close this portion of the public comments and move on to the rest of the agenda. The first item is the public hearing to receive comments on updating Utah land use development and management act, flood bond. You want to say anything about that?
This is the one that changes reference in the section that was previously codified at 10.9, it's not codified at 10.20, period.
This is extremely minor,
There's no policy change.
administrative change.
So I move that we adopt ordinance 2026 dash.
That's later.
Oh, that's the.
Just opening the public hearing.
Oh.
It's just the. public.
Crap.
Okay. Now what? We go to the next public hearing? Okay,
Oh, I'm sorry, right.
all right, next public hearing is receive comments on amendments to the town of Alpha zoning map to reflect base facility zone ABC by the adoption of ordinance 2026. 03.
I have a comment that relates to this particular map and also to the ordinance itself. There are multiple typos in the legend for that map. And also the map shows our particular property as being outside and puts us in FR 50 instead of FR 1. And I realize that it says the value of the map is spatially inaccurate, but if that's the way it is, why not just put the box around our house and we are part of our. So I question the value of a map that is referenced to be spatially inaccurate and yet it draws lines the way it does.
Okay. Any other public comments on that ordinance? Okay, public hearing to receive public comment on amendments to provision of Title 10 regarding petitions to rezone by adoption of ordinance 2026-04. Okay, hearing none, We'll move on to public hearing, receive public comments on amendments to provisions of the subdivision chapter via the adoption of ordinance 2026-05. Hearing none, we'll have a public hearing on receiving public comment on the public benefit of donating the costs associated with land check fees and building permit fees for trailhead restroom. Now, let me say something about this. We're gonna get a trailhead restroom essentially for free. Okay, so let us not. Let's not tax the people giving us a restaurant for free, okay? Any problem with that? All right, next is public hearing to receive public comment on proposed amendments for this fiscal 2025-26 budgets. This is a little good. Okay. Next is public hearing, receive public comments on proposed amendments to capital projects plan. Which Chris spoke eloquently to earlier. All right. That is the end of the public hearing. Right? Okay. So now we'll switch to the citizen input that is not associated with the busing. Are there any citizens who would like to address us?
Me again. Margaret Burke. Two items. One is, I'm wondering if it's possible in the future to have more things in a consent agenda rather than a 28 item agenda. So that things can be done more quickly. And then the second thing is, I wanted to suggest an amendment to the fireworks regulation in that page 3 of that is actually attached to the wrong amendment. It's attached to the resolution relating to bereavement leave. If you take a look at those pages, it should be the bereavement is I think at 85 and the fireworks resolution is at 82 to 83, but 86 should be attached to the other.
It's just in the agenda that got posted or the.
It's in the packet itself.
Yeah, I must have, cause I must have.
So I just wanted you to make that amendment so you don't have to come back next month. So that when you review that resolution, you make the amendment that that page should be part of that one and not the other one.
I think they all have footers on them, so.
Yeah, but we'll take a look at it. The footer is the resolution number and not their name.
Any other citizen input? Mark,
Mark, the recap of the public input, March 11th. And the composition of the proposed committee. The open house was very well attended compared to others in recent decades. And there were a lot of people there, some of whom I knew, some of whom I didn't, but very few that have had a regular in-person attendance at meetings, whether or not they're on the Zoom meeting. Generally, I don't see that many parties up there. And regards the composition of the committee proposed to be giving a brainstorming for some ideas for capital expenditures, which are going to result in drastically much higher taxes under any scenario, really, even in the most de minimis build out possible. You're on the composition of the committee, you're going to have people who are living in service area number 3 who already have competent sewer and water provision. You're going to have if the statistics by Mr. Cawley are correct, you're gonna have a number of people that are living in company housing, whether it's the lodges or the ski area, not paying any property taxes, but you're also gonna, and then you're gonna have voters. And, you know, their circumstances gonna vary widely. I don't know if there's any voters on the committee or what the level of voters are on the committee, but I would again propose that Mrs. Burke, Mr. Mon, and myself be added to the committee to balance the committee out from for people that have not been present for a lot of the deliberations that have gotten us to this point. Thank you.
Okay. Any further citizen inputs? I think that's it.
I have one. Hi, I'm Jennifer Reed Linus, I am a resident and a voter. And I would like to add that couple things. One is, it was just great to have this town hall meeting. I would like to suggest you can decide what's most effective, but I think if we had 2 to 4 of those a year, we're gonna get more people involved in the community and feel like they have more power in the decisions that happen here. I know everyone's always welcome to every meeting. People are busy and have all kinds of things and we have those influence. Then secondly, regarding this committee, I think you had some good points here, and I would like to see those 3 people on that committee. But what I would also like to say is that we have to have some trust in the people that are on the committee, that they will learn and do what they need to and reach out to find answers, because that is what we're going to be doing. So I would like to say, I know Margaret and I discussed, there's like 13 people that want to be on this committee. What a wonderful challenge that is. I always like to say, when people complain they have 3 or 4 homes, what a wonderful problem, right? So we have a wonderful challenge here, and maybe we don't say no to people. Maybe we let them drink. There's always going to be somebody who's going to fall away, and maybe we end up with this committee and it turns into smaller 2 and 3 people taking on a task. And my whole point is, we want to be successful. And my idea of success is to take care of the taxpayers, right? But first and foremost, we need to know that we are going to carry through with this project. And I really truly believe that we will find funding to alleviate some of the costs.
Okay, thanks. You agree? Anybody else? All right, now. Item 11, discussion of possible action appointing capital committee members. I think what you might.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. We got you. Great.
We got 2.5 weeks left, roughly, our season here. We've looks like now we'll be in probably about 12% down in skier visits for the year. It's interesting, so most of the year, we lost 2 weeks on the beginning. We've we haven't been off that much, single digits most weeks since then. A couple of weeks ago, we had a bad week. We were down. Last week was a good week for us again with the new snow. But my current projection is when it comes to the revenue side, it's gonna be less than 10% down revenues. So a little bit better than we were thinking mid-season. From a revenue, so for your planning purposes there. We've seen we've seen with the other ski areas such as Deer Valley and Park City and the others closing, we've seen an influx of those people in the last week. They have come and they don't have altitude season passes or discounted tickets, so they're paying full rate, which they're fine with.
So are you.
So that's been helping too. So we're still working towards April 26th. Being our closing day. We'll see a ramp up of the building, the Albion Day Lodge project the week after, by May 5th. We'll start seeing more activity as they try to push that to get that building to close across the closing line for the season. That's kind of where we're at. We're pleased that we are fortunate to be where we are. have the mountain we have and have the condition we have. We've had some pretty good spring skiing. You know, they've lasted a while, so you have to follow the sun.
Yes.
The stuff softens and it's pretty good. Any questions, of course?
Follow the shade. I'm a little distressed at the at Al's. My spring beer, there was no draft beer this year. And I'm muscling through on the 2 beers I have Springsteen, so I love my resort, but I was sorely disappointed. Oh, boy. But I like Al's. Anyway. The steak's been great. Thanks, Mark.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said, yeah. It's good.
All right, now. Discussion possible action of the committee members. I think we're gonna defer that. But I kind of lost track here. Help me, guys.
That's what we decided to do.
Defer.
To the end of the meeting.
All right, yeah, all right. So next,
Reorganize the agenda and do that at the end of the meeting.
yeah, right. Okay, discussion possible action to adopt municipal wastewater planning program report.
So, yeah, just a reminder, we discussed this. Yeah, I think we had the substantive discussion this last time. We just didn't notice it as being up for action. We need to adopt it per the state regulation. So, Steve happens to be on the call. So if you have any more questions, feel free to ask them, but otherwise, I think we can probably just move it up. Unless you don't want to. We don't have a resolution, so you can just, move.
Okay.
I move the adopt the municipal wastewater planning program report on sewer as previously discussed.
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not a resolution.
All right. Now, discussion of possible action adopt 2026 R4 regarding fireworks restriction, which is basically no fireworks up here. Right? And why is it that we have to do this annually? Why can't we do it for a longer term?
Before May 1st of each year, is my understanding.
It has to be done before May 1st. Each
If there was a UFA film.
And we can't do it for the next 10 years.
Yeah, it's the state law
Okay.
has. So then you make that determination every year, we know it's gonna be a problem, particularly this year.
Yeah.
Been many years in the future.
It's not fireworks lobby.
I move that we adopt resolution 2026-R-4 regarding firework restrictions.
All right.
Second.
All in favor?
This will be a roll call. This is where we start the withdrawals.
Yes.
Councilmember Ansel,
Yes.
Councilmember Highmark,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Councilmember Schilling,
Yes.
and Mayor Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Okay, next one is a little unusual, discussion and possible action about 2026 R5 regarding bereavement leave.
So this is a resolution, you can also state code mandate. That would be adopted by resolution or ordinance. And basically what it does is it mandates bereavement leave if someone loses a child due to a miscarriage.
You vote on
So
this
it's limited
next
to
year?
just that.
No, this is just one time.
Oh, okay.
It's adopted yeah.
But normally it would just be done as by the mayor, but the state code requires it to be.
In that case, I move that we adopt resolution 2026-R-5 regarding bereavement leave as just discussed.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
And can I just make the comment, we got a comment from a citizen earlier. Was it on this resolution or the previous one? Okay, when I compiled the packet. I must have inserted the pages slightly off, but they all do have a footnote on the bottom, so I think you all hopefully could make sense of what the actual resolutions were and keep them straight, so just want to acknowledge that, okay. Councilmember Ansel,
Yes.
Councilmember Hedmark,
Yes.
Councilmember,
Yes.
Councilmember Schilling, and Mayor Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes, thank you.
And then, let's see. Discussion of possible action to adopt 2026 R6, amending the fiscal 25-26 budgets, and I believe this is no increase in the total budget, but it moves some things around internally. I think that's it. Some things go down.
It was the two main things that kicked this off were the conversation about the Trailhead Restroom and having a public hearing to be able to absorb, we'll say, the costs of permitting for that, the check fees and the building permit fees.
So we can get.
So we've reduced our income and increased our, and then also the sewer expense for the extension line to the, or
No, you're right. Yeah.
or to, we just had it, the total project.
Yeah, that's the same.
Total project cost was the same, it just slightly different account numbers, so.
I just wanted to offer like a point of general education, which is that the restroom building permit fee thing is the requirement for a municipality to donate. So whether it's we're giving $1 million to the road home, homeless shelter, or budgeting not to take in $1,000 of building permit revenue, it's the same process.
Oh, gotcha. I mean, from a state standpoint, that kind of stuff makes sense. Like otherwise you're gonna get crony capitalism with a bunch of stuff like that.
Yeah.
I would only echo Margaret's comment that this agenda is a good advertisement for doing some consent agenda type stuff in the future.
We can't do that for resolutions and ordinances. They have to be individually noticed and acted upon. So unfortunately, that's the case.
And we don't want crony capitalism to arrive now the.
That's.
So if you're ready, we need a motion in a second.
I move that we adopt resolution 2026-R-6, amending the fiscal 2025-2026 budgets as stated to balance the numbers.
Second.
I'll give that one the least.
Yeah.
Councilmember Ansel.
Yes.
Councilmember Highmark.
Yes.
Councilmember Schilling.
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan.
Oh, at least.
You did it the wrong way.
And Mayor Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, discussion of possible action to adopt resolution R 2026 R7, amending the capital projects plan. And this is something similar.
It's just to keep all budgeting documents the same.
Okay.
That sounds very comforting, the way you put that. I move that we adopt resolution 2026-R7, amending the capital project plan.
Second.
Councilmember Ansel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Councilmember Highmark.
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan.
Yes.
Councilmember Schilling.
Yes.
And Mayor Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, the next one is discussion of possible action to adopt resolution R 2026-R-8, repealing and replacing the dog license numbers.
Yeah, we already discussed this last.
You did, and so the reason we put this on the agenda again is that 2 more licenses were forfeited. So this was in the clerk's report, you might have missed it.
Okay.
2 more licenses were forfeited. Instead of letting those sit for a full year unassigned, we figured we would just update the number. So it's adding 2 more licenses to the Class B is the way it's written. If you'd like to change that, it's your prerogative.
And remind us again, class A is
Voter class,
okay,
and you have to prove that you've lived here for 6 months.
okay,
And then the B class is the property owner class. So
Okay,
Give me,
and do we have any idea on demand for the dog?
they're all in demand.
Okay.
Maybe property. I'd
Okay.
say we usually have less applicants in A and those usually get fulfilled. The
Okay.
last couple of years, we've had the same number of applicants as.
And so my understanding from reading that is somebody who owned property here forfeited 2 dog permits after this, so now we're just voting to say, hey, if you own property here, you have an extra chance of getting a dog
Two
permit.
more chances, yeah,
Okay.
so we're giving 2 more opportunities, and I just figured since we're still in the cycle, that it would be a welcomed opportunity for
And can
people.
you remind me how many are in A and D?
I will look.
40, currently 43 in the A. 32, thank you, in B, and then 4 in C. Okay, thank you.
By doing this, it improves our reception to the Geo bond. It will make people happy by doing dog license.
Well, and I think yeah. I'm in favor of this, thank you for not letting them just go unanswered for another year.
Are we waiting on the number?
All right, I know, I think we got the number.
I move that we adopt resolution 2026-R-8. Repealing and replacing dog license numbers as stated or written.
Seconded,
Councilmember Ansel,
yes.
Councilmember
Yes.
Bernard, Councilmember Morgan,
I think.
Councilmember Schilling,
Yes.
and Mayor Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Discussion of possible action about ordinance 2026-02, updating references to the Utah Land Use Development and Management Act, LUDA, and the Town of Alta Code. And this basically just brings our code in conformance with the state, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Any discussion?
I move that we adopt ordinance 2026-02, updating references to the Utah Land Use Development and Management Act in the Town of Alta Code to Utah Code annotated 10-20.
Seconded,
Councilmember Ansel,
yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Councilmember Schilling,
Yes.
Mayor Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, discussion of possible action to adopt ordinance 2026-03. Amending the Town of Alta zoning map to reflect base facility zone A, B, and C. And this.
Yeah.
So can we look at this map on the screen and discuss it?
I mean, I was like, what is our process? Yeah, I wasn't sure.
I get the share it because
Great.
I'm on the call, so.
Beautiful, we cross the street. I think Chris is gonna hear it.
You don't need to turn my screen on.
Well, you-
So there were 2 comments made about this, So can we talk about the spelling errors? What spelling errors are you?
Zona
Zona.
and also.
Zona data,
Yes,
that is a typo.
yes, and then in
Oh.
the paragraph, it talks about replaced something instead of replaces.
That should be used for general plan purposes.
We'll put this together.
A contractor to a town, right?
Okay.
Well, it's actually
Planning.
doesn't provide a lot.
uses.
Purpose, right, past tense, purpose, okay, so I guess pending the rest of it, we could adopt this. You know, subject to correcting those typos.
Well, so the typos are one thing, but.
So-
The boundaries.
So yes, so here's the thing, I have looked at 4 sets of GIS data since Ms. Burke made that comment, and they all show. That property, frankly straddling a property line which happens to be the boundary between FR 50 and FR 1. So I'm not sure that it's possible to create a zoning map that would show the property entirely in FR 1.
So part of our house is
So
in.
our existing zoning map on the town website does the same thing. That existing zoning map is a replacement of one that was adopted in like 2007, and I'm pretty sure that one shows the same thing as well. So that, I'm not really sure that's a problem that is solvable in the context of a GIS map, absent like going out in the field to take some survey data and then having them verify the image we're trying to depict.
Two, I can tell you, I'm very familiar with the legal descriptions of what the circumstance actually is. Probably an unknown, but the difference is that most of the GIS databases are basically going to use the government survey instead of the monumentation for the mining districts and claims. And so that's why there's a little fudgy wudgy in there, and that really won't go away unless you do exactly as you said, and you look at the monuments for that. There have been some advances in that with what's currently filed at the Salt Lake County Surveyor's Office that may be helpful to sorting that out, but that would be a little bit of a job. You'd have to recover the stuff and have a look, and then you still might not know, but you might be closer to knowing one way or the other.
Yeah, GIS data is just a drawing, but it is to some extent based on survey data. It'd be very, very hard to depict accurately in this three-dimensional environment. All of this has been corrected. Some of it I know is basically hand drawn based on cadastral survey data. You know, I can't speak to exactly where the corrected data sets come from other than Salt Lake County for that part of town, but.
Is it affected by whether it's like NAD 27 or WGS 84?
The data plan, I mean, I don't speak JS that well, but it may be.
So just for we're talking about this right
at
here,
the-
right?
yes, right at the, it's like the heel of the boot, yeah, that thing right there. So, we can table this and try to figure it out, but I'm not sure there's a solution.
Well, I think what you're saying, unless we spend a whole lot more money, and even then, it's gonna be ambiguous in certain situations. So this is sort of for guidance only.
Yeah, what's the consequence of moving forward? Does it cause a problem?
And it's in addition to, I guess, so when I saw this come up, I thought, oh, we've been talking about the shallow shaft recently.
Well, that
So
was the
I
primary-
looked at this thing and I was like, okay, I think I should read BF, that must stand for base facility.
It
So
does.
then I'm like, okay,
So,
there's nothing across the street.
no, so to be clear, the purpose of this amendment is to create additional legend values for the base facilities subzones. They are arguably separate zoning districts. The zoning map had treated them as all one zoning district, but different regulations apply in each of the subzones, so they need to be called out in the zoning map, and we've just never done that. So it's just sort of a realization we had in working with the shallow shaft. We blew that end set up like 3 times. I mean, these like, you know, 8.5 by 11 zoning maps are completely, they're dinosaurs, right? Municipal zoning maps are on ArcGIS Online. You can zoom out to Mars and then zoom in on a look at grass, look at your property. And in Alta, your property boundary is gonna be 2 houses down.
Yeah, right.
So we're developing a own data set so that we can have that modern map. I just don't know whether. I don't know how possible it's gonna be to make all the parcel boundaries reflect.
I guess that was.
I think our neighborhood is way off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess I had some concerns that it's currently that base facility area that's coming up into question, the shallow shaft, is colored dark green. And so on this map, so if we pass that, does that mean, or whatever you call that color green?
Well, if you zoom in on the inset, bro, you can
Right.
see that, it's really difficult. Like,
Okay.
again, it's just impossible, I think, without, the inset is in the upper left.
Sorry.
So,
Yeah, and I thought it was really hard, and I was concerned about making a decision that had an impact.
it doesn't, this is not a policy change, this is just clarifying the policy, which is that those two properties, the shallow shaft and the photo house, microscopic.
Yep.
Properties, are in base facilities subzone C per the legend.
I'd suggest maybe that you continue this so that, because I wasn't aware, I'd like to understand this, because you want your map to reflect correctly.
Yeah.
Can I add something to you guys, having done GIS work for a long time? So if you guys go to the Salt Lake County GIS maps, everybody's parcels up at Alta are wrong. They're all off. And so some of the GIS data that, whether it's at the ski area or with the town, the parcels are all incorrectly placed. And they're not a legally binding document, but it's just something that, all those resources that we all get, whether you're a GIS person from the state or the county. So I know it's like easy to fixate on that, but I think Chris is just trying to make a adjustment to, this one section that we're zoning in on the base facility zone. But yes, GIS work is constant work that needs improving on, but all the parcels up at Alta and Salt Lake County are off. So I don't know how to fix that, but I don't think we should fixate on that for our maps necessarily. We could try to get them up to date.
I think Bonnie had the right idea here. We just to continue this.
John Goldner has a comment.
Excuse me?
John Goldner has a comment.
Oh. Go ahead, John.
I'm trying to lower my hand. Hello. I just wanted to say, whenever I talk, the dog barks. The GIS doesn't really matter the way the base facility zone was adopted when it was adopted, because when it was adopted, like specifically for zone C, which is the shaft in the photo house, it specifically said zone C will be the shallow shaft and the photo house. They were specifically named. So it's the 0.21 acres of the shaft and the 0.13 acres of the photo house, whether or not the GIS matches. So it can easily be, I don't know, somehow not fudged, but pulled onto just those two specific properties, because that's how it was attached to the rezoning. If that helps.
So I have a comment to make, and maybe if the judge, and the comment is that the appropriate names of those properties can change at any time. So another reason why we wanted to call this out in a legend value is in case Snow Pine becomes renamed, or I'm not gonna create a name like I was earlier in the meeting, but likewise the shallow shaft and the photo house. So we want to move away from that. And that is maybe the subject of another amendment. The zoning map needs to indicate the zoning designation of the property. So given that.
It still establishes and is based on the actual surveyed parcels of A, B, and C, no matter what.
Sorry, John, based on this discussion about some of the challenges of, accurately depicting parcel boundaries, I would recommend that, we table this and see if we can improve the situation.
Okay, any concern about tabling?
I think we don't want to use the term tabling, right?
No, we wanna continue.
We want to continue.
Continue,
Okay.
okay, continue.
So do you think we can do this next month, or you wanna do 2 months? Cause you wanna have a date certain, otherwise you're gonna have to do another.
The bummer is that, we're required to do public hearings at the town council, so we have to just.
So why don't we make it 2 months, and that gives us time to.
So we're gonna have public hearings both of the next 2 months, I think so. We have to decide a date today when it's gonna happen.
Yeah, she need to have a.
Date certain for them bringing around again, so can we do,
We could do next month.
or in June, what do you suggest?
Why don't we, May is feeling not only packed but substantive, whereas June is packed and it's a little bit more like this meeting, so why don't we just do June?
Okay. I mean, if we're gonna try to make a whole town correction, it would be
So
impossible.
we're gonna have to decide it's as good as it's gonna be, so, as a
Yeah.
guide, so.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I'll leave it.
Maybe there's some legalese that goes along with this as good as it gets, so then we all feel more comfortable about saying, yeah, it's as good as it gets and we're done.
Okay, so that has been
Continue
continued.
till the June meeting. Do we need to do that?
Just have a vote, it can be roll, that doesn't have to be roll call, just, does everyone agree to continue?
Yes.
I move that we continue this to the June meeting.
My second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes,
Yes. Okay. So, next one is item 20, discussion and possible action to adopt ordinance 2026-04, amending provisions of Title 10 regarding petitions to rezone. Little explanation.
Yeah, so this is, I'm gonna say this is not a policy change, this is the closest thing amongst any of these to a policy change. Really, this is more a matter of making the code function and function better for staff and possibly read better for the public. We have an amendments section in chapter 1, title 10, and the proposal is to take the petition to rezone sections from the zoning districts, which is problematic for a number of reasons I won't get into, but take those out of the zoning districts and put it above those sections of the code so that they apply to the rest of the land use regulations title. So that's really all it does. What we think it is, at the staff level, the legal counsel agrees, just makes more sense to have it out there. Yes.
Talked about this a few months ago.
Oh, yeah. Yes, so all of these have been intro to the council and received a recommendation from the planning commission.
I move that we adopt ordinance 2026-0-4, amending provisions of Title 10 regarding petitions to rezone.
I second.
Councilmember Ansel,
Yes.
Councilmember
Yes.
Hillman, Councilmember Morgan,
yes.
Councilmember Schilling,
Yes.
Mayor Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, now the next one has to do with the town council schedule for the next year.
Oh, miss.
No,
There's 21
subdivision.
No, 05.
And I
I do want to talk about this.
an outdoor, discussion possible action to adopt ordinance 2026-05, amending provisions of the subdivision chapter.
So this one is a policy change, and we actually didn't preview this for the council, but we did bring it to the planning commission for a hearing and a recommendation. What this would do is require signatures on a final plat or for the town for final approval to be no more than 6 months old. So that, signatures don't go stale, regulations change, jurisdictions evaporate, whatever else happens, so.
But only within the town.
Yes.
Not any of these other signatories.
We
don't have
no,
those.
so like a plat will have however many other jurisdictions or third parties. And we are typically the last signature on a subdivision or condo plat, for instance. So we want all those other signatures to have been gathered in 6 months rather than whatever.
Right, and it's not just the signatures, it's the idea that if there's a plat that's out there, you want it to be recorded. If there's an action, I don't want them to just sit out there, so maybe there's an amendment for a plat to change some condos, whatever. You don't want to have that action and then not have it get recorded for 3 years. It just creates.
Oh. Okay, it's compliance by the submitting party where we've said. Whatever the issue is arisen, it's been resolved within 6 months before it then comes to us.
No, it's basically, once you guys approve it, the idea is after you approve a subdivision. Or a condo plat, or kind of the same thing. They then have 6 months to go from preliminary plat to final plat. And then once, and that's done by your planning commission per state law, it no longer goes to you. And then,
That's right.
when it goes to final plat, town administrator, town manager will sign it. And it has to go to him within, and it has to be recorded within a year.
Do you
So
have any,
the idea is that you're not having things approved and then not finalized.
do you have any reservations? Paul?
I drafted this, so.
So you feel comfortable about it? I move that we adopt ordinance 2026-0-5, amending provisions of the subdivision chart chapter as discussed and drafted by our legal counsel.
I saw. Councilmember Ansel,
Yes.
Councilmember Highmark. Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Councilmember Shelley,
Yes.
Mayor Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, and now we are at, schedule 22. Yeah, discussion possible action to adopt ordinance 2026-07 to establish the fiscal 26 town council meeting schedule.
I would like to discuss the fact that I really, we bought a community center. That is OLS, this is the post office, and that says that we're meeting in the community center. I'd love to meet in OLS. But if we're meeting in the post office, can we identify it as the meetings in the post office?
Meetings in the post office, so change that to post office building, which is I think
Post
in our.
office building.
However,
facility.
that for our purposes of raising money from our taxpayers, if we're like, oh yeah, we got 2 community centers, and can you give us some more money for something else? I think we change the names.
It's nomenclature.
Yes.
But you have, yes, you have me in the low because I've been,
I don't have a
I'm
problem.
sensitive to that.
Okay.
Are we shorthanded, POV?
However you want, whatever you guys wanna call it, but this is no longer, should no longer in my mind be referred to as community center.
You'll have to excuse me when I make that error in the future, but
Okay.
I understand. Just add that.
It's good. That's why I texted you. I'm like, oh, where's the meeting? You're like, dude, it's the same place it always is.
Can I ask a question? Do you think Our Lady of the Snows should be known as the community center, or should it continue to be known as Our Lady?
I believe it should be called the community center. We paid for the community center, and I think Sarah's done an outstanding job with that. It is our community center.
It's even Our Ladies of the Snows Community Center.
Yeah.
Cause I think it'll survive all those. So I agree, but check this out.
I don't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Did you guys look? There was just a couple
Yeah.
funny dates on there and I just
Yeah.
wanna make sure
Yeah, okay.
everybody feels okay about those dates, that's all. Okay, excuse me.
I move that we adopt ordinance 2026-0-6 to establish the FY 26 town council meeting schedule with the adaptation of the nomenclature change to post office and community center.
No,
Post office.
post office building, this is no longer the community center.
That's Bill. Yeah, sorry, I meant post office. Damn it.
Yeah. Mike's building. Oh, a second,
Councilmember Ansel,
yes.
Councilmember
Yes.
Highmark. Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Councilmember Schilling,
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor
Yes.
Burke. Motion passes. I should change that order, usually I change up the order, but when it's so many for the.
Oh, yeah.
Could I also just make a quick comment that I wanna just put a date on your radar. Keeping the option on the table for truth and taxation moving forward this year, which you're gonna decide in later meetings whether we go through that process or not. But I have to put something on my calendar now with the county and the state. So I have put on, we can't hold that meeting when there's other business being done. So I've scheduled that for Tuesday, August 11th at 6 p.m. I just want to get that out on the radar.
Can you set up calendar invites for all this stuff?
Sure.
Thanks. Okay.
We're gonna use that screen.
And that takes us to item number 23, the mayor's report. And actually, the discussion on OLS plays right into this. Because 1 year ago this month, we had the best attended town council meeting in my memory. And the attraction was the disposition of OLS. Many advocated that the town no bid the offer from the Archdiocese of Salt Lake City and cleared the way for the purchase of IDs. There was considerable expressed concern that ACE programs and interests would be compromised or handicapped if ACE did not own the building. In the end, town council voted 4-1 to acquire the building and the town bought it. Now a year has gone by. And I've asked Sarah, little Sarah, to join us in our June meeting to give us her perspective on how things have worked out.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Good, and she's accepted. Okay. As we all know, this has been an essentially low snow year. While that will affect water supply for much of the west, I don't know how it might affect Alpha. Next month, I hope that we can get a reading on that by a authoritative source. We don't have, water problems are for everyone. As a further preview of coming attractions, next month we'll consider signing the Utah Renewable Energy Program. To me, it looks like an easy yes. The benefits are substantial and to both our little community and to the region, and the costs are minimal. Chris has been a principal in the development of this program. And I believe we have to make a decision before the end of May. June 2nd. June 2nd, okay. So I hope you'll give us the rundown on that. You're more familiar with it than anybody. Is it 5:20?
3:17.
Well, in the interest of time, I'll skip the astronomy report this month and make you wait until May to learn how Saturn's rings got there. And
Be waiting with bated breath.
Yeah, we're gonna go about
or we'll go research it. You can do that, you know. Okay, so that takes us to item 24, approval of the March 11, 2026 town council meeting minutes. March 11, 2026 special town council meeting and the April staff and financial reports. I move to approve
The March 11, 2026 town council meeting minutes, the March 11, 2026 special town council meeting minutes, and the April staff and finance reports.
a second.
All in favor?
Yes.
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 Okay, that passes. Are there any questions regarding the department reports? And in particular, I'd like to ask Jay, this is undoubtedly in the entire western US gonna be a pretty tricky fire season.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Everybody
You want us to stand on, yes, it is.
Cross our fingers that, be optimistic that it won't, but, we're preparing that it will be. And all of our cooperators that we work with, other agencies are doing the same. As far as UFA, our wildland crews there's some of them are already up and running. We provide service to Camp Williams, that crew is already, trained and up and running. Our other crews will be onboarding over the next several weeks. A lot of training for our UFA personnel specifically. We've already have our wildland rigs that are operating or ready to operate. We have water in them to use them as plows during the winter time, but we switched them over to summertime operations. I think our operations chief requested budget to be able to staff additional, what we call type 6 fire engines on red flag days for an extra 20 red flag days during the summer. So that is another resource. That would be an additional 4 fire engines that would be staged appropriately throughout the valley on those days when high winds, low humidities, high temps are happening. So be another resource to jump on things quickly. Those are some of the things that we found with some of the catastrophic fires over the last several years, that maybe had they been jumped on and addressed quickly from the get-go, the outcome could have been possibly different. That's up for debate, but we're planning on doing that. So to answer your question, yes, we're planning on that, and we'll cross our fingers that it doesn't happen, but.
Or you can do anything different in Alpha, like no fires or anything like that?
Well, I think that the restrictions will probably be the same as they have been in years past. There's no fireworks allowed in the town of Alpha. As far as fire restrictions, a lot of that is guided by the land ownership agencies, so Forest Service up here that directs their recommendations on what level. You remember last year when we have different risk levels, they recommend adopting those levels, and usually it's fires only in campground fire pits or in a homeowner's fire pit that has the appropriate things necessary to extinguish the fire, etc. So those will likely be in place again. Fireworks restrictions in the valley can change. All the maps are submitted, and we'll submit a map to the county what those fire restrictions are for each municipality. I suspect that the foothill communities will probably be restricting those more than they have in the past. I don't think we've allowed fireworks east of Wasatch Boulevard for several years, but they'll be looking at that closely.
Do you extend the fire season by day count? I understand you've got some budget and resourcing planned for high threat days, but are we extending the season? Is there sort of a programmatic approach to that, or?
Our seasonal programs have tended to start earlier than they did when I was a new firefighter 30 years ago. They start earlier and they end later.
Okay.
The seasonal folks we tend to be a little more flexible with. Some of them are college students, and so we have the flexibility to still be able to staff crews, but allow some people that are going back to school to lead for that.
Are you concerned then? Okay, thanks. That's interesting. Are you concerned about like budget dollars for the stuff you need? Whether it's overtime, rotary wing. Is that?
No, we're part of the state cooperative, so that as long as we're doing our part with what the state requires, which we do, and we make sure that all of our communities are part of that. If we go beyond one operational period where we are bringing in resources from the outside, we're bringing in aircraft, etc., we're not going to be charged for that as long as we're a cooperative group, and we are. So I don't think, and that's always a concern for overtime for staff that we have to upstaff. We had a large apartment fire in Harriman last month, and we bring extra people in, but we always have planned for overtime, and we manage the budget very well. If there's things that we have to exchange in order to be able to staff, then that's what
Yeah, and I guess part of too, what I was curious about too is bureaucratic slow roll, just because hey, we need X or Y, and there's a process, and sometimes it goes into the different agencies and bureaucracies, calculator, and you're waiting for the.
Yeah, sometimes the state does a pretty good job of assisting us with reimbursements, and a lot of times we feel about cost, but the state does a really good job of reimbursing, as well as anytime we send crews out, we participate with single resource programs. So we have people that are specialized in a lot of different areas that are utilized with national incident management teams. So they go out, they get great experience, maybe working on fires in California or throughout the West. And they bring that experience back, and they're able to utilize that here if we have a catastrophic event here. So reimbursement is typically pretty quick with the state, and it's pretty quick with our federal cooperators as well. Our duty officer, what we call a duty officer, so that's somebody that we have on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're starting that up, I believe, April 16th of this year, and that's somebody that has very good wildland background, that has a direct line to work with UFC, the Northern Utah Emergency Fire Center. So if we were to have any kind of fire or an incident where we needed additional resources, they are immediately spooling those things up. So if you had a fire in Little Cottonwood Canyon and we had a wind out of the west that we were worried about the town of Alta, we can have aircraft flying to Alta within minutes, if they're available. So, and typically they do have those resources. They don't just let all the resources go to California or wherever. They keep resources staged throughout the western United States and the Great Basin region to be able to address any issues. So we're not ever empty, but they may be on another fire somewhere else in northern Utah. But they would prioritize based on threat and risk.
Yeah, right.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, sorry to occupy a lot of time.
No, it's great. I
Thanks,
appreciate the questions.
You know, while you're up here, we had a meeting just a couple of days ago with you and.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Dustin.
Yeah, about level of service for our community, and you want to say anything about that?
Well, we are an agency that puts together and organizes what we call a standards of cover document. With that document, it's not just our standards of cover, but it's also a community risk assessment. So it's I think it's about a 600-page document, and it looks at all the communities that we service. It looks at all the risks that you have. So if you look at the town of Alta, we assess all the risks that are here, and also how we provide the service to you with data statistics for the last 3 years. So we update that document every 3 years, and so the one we're working on now will be for 2026 through 2029, and it's completed. There were a couple things that Mayor and Chris wanted us to look at and adjust, or provide a little bit of background or insight to. But that document will be approved by the board, I believe, in the next board meeting. So welcome to look at that. It's a lot of great information, and it tells the story of what we do, how we do it, and what I think how well we do it. So it tells you exactly how long it takes us to respond to calls, how many calls we respond to, types of calls that we respond to in your specific area.
Yeah, it's tailored to
Oh, yeah.
Highway 210 all the way up through somewhere now. Yeah, I definitely believe that.
This was just for Alpha.
Yeah.
Just for Alpha.
If you go to our website,
care
you
about
can look at the one from our last iteration in 2023. It's on our website. It's called Standards of Cover Document.
I'll check that out. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions regarding the department reports? Anything? Thanks, Jay.
You got them.
How about anything for Mike? Or do you wanna expand on anything that looked like a pretty routine report?
Yeah, I think the report stands on its own, I don't have anything with it.
Okay. Any other department report? Amendments, discussion? All right, in that case, go to new business. And you know, I would like, as a matter of new business, say, I really appreciate Rosie, Scott, and Jean Marie coming and hanging in here for this whole 2 hours plus. And
James Dillon is on, he's been on with us.
Steve?
James.
Oh, yeah, so
He's an attendee.
thanks for coming and appreciate your interest. So, all right, so we have another
Yeah, let me,
new business assignment.
no, we don't have any more.
Oh, we don't have any more new business. So what were you asking?
I was just saying that James Dillon has been on this meeting as well.
Ah,
Just online.
okay, put on there first. And who hung in here? Got it, all right. All right, let me say one thing. If you think I've turned into a dictator. Been taking my cues from somebody in the eastern part of this country. This was a rather session with 28 items that I had real concern about ever getting through. And so I do not intend to change my style in the future.
One of the shortest meetings in recent.
Well, yeah, that's right. So I horsed around with the agenda, which has been carefully constructed by our staff and anyway, don't think my personality has changed something else.
I think you're safe.
All right. Okay, so let's have a discussion of possible action to commence a closed meeting, discuss a matter authorized by the code section 2420518.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have to vote?
What do we do? What do we do now?
I think
One or two meetings underneath this Utah
we're gonna
code section.
discuss two separate sections. Subjects authorized by two different sections of state code, so I think we need a vote on each, is that correct?
Okay, so two different items in closed sessions. Right, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay,
Like you guys
so this
don't
one
wanna
is
go
correct
through
as you said it.
Okay.
So that was a motion by Dan, who was the second? Sorry.
I'm the second all day today.
Okay, so this is under code section 52.4.205.1A.
Right.
Which, I will just read the description so you're all aware, is a discussion of the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual. That is what's allowed underneath that one. So, Councilmember Ansel.
Yes.
Councilmember Highmark.
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan has left the meeting. Councilmember Schilling.
Yes.
Mayor Burke. Motion passes.
And we have a second.
So I believe the option is discussion and matter authorized by Utah Code Section 52.4.205.1C, which is strategy session to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation.
I move that we commence a closed meeting to discuss a matter authorized by Utah Code Section 52.4-205.1.
Yes. Councilmember Ansel.
Yes.
Councilmember Highmark.
Yes.
Councilmember Schilling.
Yes.
And Mayor Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes. So as just a matter of practice, what we'll do is we will close this meeting, or close, excuse me, we will leave. Everyone in the audience will have to leave this meeting. You can do your closed sessions and those people that need to be there, and then we will reconvene the public aspect of the meeting. And resume the agenda at that point and adjourn and any other items up for discussion. Which the main one that you have held to the end of the meeting was the, yes, discussion possible action to appoint capital committee members.
Yeah.
So we'll get that on the tail end of the.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and yeah, that's it.
All we have to say.
Is Mr.